Alright, everybody, we are Utah Pagan Markets. We have Loki, who is Entanglement Divination. We have Bridget, who is Bridget Wishman, Intuitive Healer, and Tarot Reader. And we have Mike.
And Mike.
We're here at the Sandy, Utah Pagan Market at Athena Beans. Live stream brought to you by Ave Melody Media.
Ave Melody.
And we have a whole bunch of awesome people here, but today is talking about bridging the gap between Imbolc and Ostara.
Yeah.
Hello.
Are we starting?
You're done.
Oh,
You're ready.
are we on right now?
Live coast to coast right now.
Oh no.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone. It's a wonderful time of year on the wheel in particular.
Wheel.
And we could just start talking about that.
And what is the wheel?
The wheel, for those unfamiliar,
It's
and
cool
I
round
believe
thing.
we have a super of it. Yep, there it is.
Super important.
The Wheel of the Year is just a pagan way of following the seasons and the Sabbats and all the rituals that keep everything going. And attuning with the Wheel of the Year is something I'm passionate about. This is something I've been doing since, 2001. And there's so much to it. The fact that you can attune yourself to the seasons helps you find flow within yourself and everything you're doing, both in your magical work and in your mundane. Because if you can work with the seasons instead of opposition to them, you will find yourself having a much better time. Now there's the 8 in the tradition that wheel is, and the tradition that I mostly grew up in. The 8 Sabbats of the wheel have certain focuses, but each of those Sabbats has an aspect of attracting something to you and releasing something in some way. But, so really you can do any of the work that you need to do within each Sabbat, but the wheel as a whole is also a cycle of growth and rest and rebirth. And you can follow those correspondences seasonally, or you can follow them energetically, or with the solar correspondence. There's a lot of ways to use the wheel, and I'm just always into.
And you can get more in depth with them too. Like you can have ones that are all about the trees. You can have the birds and everything. You can have ones that don't even talk about like the Sabbats traditionally at all, because those are traditional, but they're also not that new. Like people like to go, oh, but the Sabbats have been around for ages. Like they have been around for a while, but like the way we see them now isn't the same as how they celebrated the seasons way back in the day. Like everybody likes to be like, oh, the ancestors. Well, they probably did something similar, but not the way the wheel is nowadays. That was kind of more in the most, like, probably 100 years, which is still, a big deal. 100 years system.
We do make history with everything we do.
Yeah, we do. You're so cool.
Cool.
You say cool things.
Well, and I love, if you look at the wheel, again, you'll see that each of the Sabbats have, like I say, you can do whatever work you need to do anytime on the wheel. But, for example, if you were going to plant your seeds, do you do that in the dead of winter? The seasons aren't going to really help you as much with that. So the timing is an important thing. So right now, here we are, bridging the gap between Imbolc and Ostara.
And what is Imbolc and Ostara? What are those, and where are they on the... Do you want to pull up the wheel again, Rose? So...
On screen.
It is on screen.
So Imbolc is going to be in that quarter to the northeast, and that's going to be in our tradition that Mike and Ike came from. Imbolc was considered the area on the wheel that you entered as you entered the circle. Because when you create a witch's circle, you're creating different points and different like portals and everything. It's like this big system that you are structuring with your thoughts and with your mind to create a new reality. We're going to talk about that some more. But you enter the circle at the northeast. That's how we try to do it anyway. Sometimes location doesn't help. But you try to enter the circle by the northeast. And then as the circle continues, then it goes into Ostara. So you have that in-between time between February 2nd, which is when Imbolc is, and then the equinox this year is March 20th, I believe. I think I looked that up.
Yes.
So you have that the February to March area. And you have when the equinox is that time of balance between light and dark. And then you see that twice a year between Ostara and then Madden, the fall equinox. So you have that time between light and dark. So that's where we are. We're in between. We're in betwixt.
One of the things I like to do is wherever I'm at on that wheel, I like to look at the opposite side as well and see how they contrast, see how they balance, see what the similarities are, what the common thread is. Because if you learn anything about astrology, you learn that opposite signs on opposite sides of the sky, right? They're actually more similar than different. They just have a major point of contention that you got to understand and integrate. But yeah, kind of like that.
And same thing when you talk about the wheel with astrology. Like, you also have the wheel of the sky above us and everything. So right now we are in Aquarius, and then we'll be going from Aquarius, to Pisces. There it is. I almost lost it. So you also have the wheel of what's going on above, and then you have the wheel of what's going on below. As above, so below.
Indeed.
I did it.
So what does it look like in personal practice right now? Well, for example, at Samhain, if you celebrate Samhain, that's a time that, in particular on the wheel, it's to finish clearing away everything that you've harvested, first of all, and anything that maybe wasn't in your harvest but still needs to be cleared away, chaff, and if this was you can use the wheel to follow agriculturally, especially, but
which is what the ancestors did.
Yeah, exactly, and it's a good psychopomp to use in your life, because you think about what I'm clearing away inside myself that is no longer serving me. What aspects in myself do I need to maybe think about? Are they useful anymore, and clear them away and make space for new growth? So here we are, just on the cusp in the new growth season. My personal practice right now is attunement with the sun. I'm kind of going with the Oak King, which on the wheel goes the light half of the year, which is from Yule to Midsummer at Letha, and that's kind of the purview in my tradition, or one of them, the Oak King, the Sacred King, the Oak King, and then he'll give way to the Holly King for the dark half of the year at Letha. So right now, I'm attuning with Oak King energy. I'm sitting in the sun a lot. I'm getting up canyons. I'm working with land in any way I can. If you can get up into hikes and things like that, this is a great time to do it, because the earth isn't quite awake and springing and blooming, but there is some growth, and especially here, we're kind of had a light winter so far.
Yeah.
So there's growth stirring right now, and it's kind of weird and pagan-y, but like I can feel the energy of that when I'm up there. I feel the stirrings underneath.
But it's for real stuff.
Since when? That's crazy.
This whole time.
Stream. Vlad says hello. Bruce says hello.
Hi, Dad.
Hi.
Vlad and Dad. Hello. That's my dad. Well, not Vlad. My dad. Bruce is my dad. Vlad is not my dad. But I like Vlad too.
Would he be your Delad?
My Delad.
Okay, anyway.
So anyways.
Thank you for the last one.
Yeah, thanks, Monica. Delad.
So just... I'm glad we made that reference.
Oh,
okay.
Next.
Unbelievable.
So what were you saying about...
just personal attunement. What you can do at any time of the year, but right now especially, because I'm doing a personal attunement with the sun, which again is the purview of the Oak King, and I'm doing a lot with it. My meditations have turned to a lot of gratitude meditations, trying to do the attracting more of what I want by being grateful for the things that I like. And
being gratiteful.
Gratiteful. What did I even say?
It's okay.
And then vibrating at that frequency of the things that you want, that you're trying to attract at you. So you find yourself there being grateful for it, because you already have those things, so you can vibrate with the gratefulness of it. You don't even have to do visualization, which is a whole other process. So working on body and strength and doing 5 a.m. exercise classes and all that kind of thing. And so I'm growing my energy, but I'm not at the point where I'm expressing it outward yet. I'm waiting until spring for more of that. So like I have some goals and some projects and stuff, but I'm not starting on them yet, because all of that energy that I'm building up right now, I'm turning inward. I'm turning introspection to my own germinating seeds inside of myself, so that I'm more capable when the time comes. And because right now, I've been wanting to express more, but I could feel I was kind of working against the season. There's still snow on the ground. There's still a lot going on with winter. And
lots of hearth stuff still.
Yeah, the inward and the hearth. And so when the time comes, I'm going to be more ready to express because I've been through the rest period. I've done that, recovered. I had a rough fall. I had a lot of processing to do there, and I've done that. Still am, but and all that energy, that attunement, I'm putting into myself for now, so that I can better serve when the time comes, and I can do that in harmony with the season.
Because when you've got it built up in yourself, it kind of just shines out from you.
Yes.
It's delicious.
Oh my God. Yes.
And so when the time of flow is for outward expression, I'll be more ready, and I'll be in flow with the river of the season.
Aww, that was beautiful.
Well, that's a personal practice I'm doing right now.
What about you?
Hi!
You talk now.
Yeah, you
I'm
talk
learning
now.
about fire these days.
Ooh, tell us about fire.
Getting into a bit of fire. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Loki, fire? Ooh, tell me more.
Tell me more. Like, do you have a pyre?
God. Well, about that. I've never. I started out doing like bottle spells and things like that, right? Never got into candle magic, never got into pyromancy, flame divination, that kind of thing. And now I find myself with like a fiery stone on my altar. It's got like a little fire spirit in it, and you can see her dancing. It's very cool. And several candles, and I do a lot of candle magic, and it's. I feel like Wheel of the Year wise right now, if I can get my mouth to say those words all together. I'm past the point where I've gotten the spark, I'm past the point where I've gotten the kindling to start lighting, and now I'm starting to get smaller sticks to burn. That's where I'm at right now. And understanding of the breath, apparently that's really important when it comes to fire, because that's how you feed the stuff. That's how you... If you aren't paying attention to your breath, your fire is going to die in the snow, and then you are going to die in the snow also, hypothetically, if you're out in the middle of nowhere with only fire. That's
metaphorically.
been really metaphorically,
Also,
of course.
but literally.
Yes, eventually, at some point. So that's been fascinating. Realized I needed some more of that fire in my life, some of that spark. Need to focus more on action as well. There's a balance between fire and earth for me this year. Putting my creativity into something more structured, creating actual happenings and things from all that bubbles up within me. So that's been fascinating.
Yeah, and it's no coincidence that at where we're moving into on the wheel, the elemental correspondence for that is fire.
We're coming into Aries after Pisces.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
we're
it's
having to
kind of
build
great.
it.
Yeah, perfect time of year.
And the top of the zodiac.
Yeah.
Word.
Delicious.
Word up, the code word. No matter where you say. Anyways. So, I'm going to talk about tarot cards.
Please talk about tarot, Bridget.
And I made notes
Right
this time.
there.
That's us. I made notes so I could keep myself on task. Okay. So, I've personally been doing like a whole series in my writings, and I did a course on this where we're taking the major arcana, and then we are splitting them into 3 rows of 7 by having the Fool be placed off to the side. We're still using the Fool. The Fool becomes our game piece as it goes through each of these stories and archetypes in the cards. So last time I was on anyways, we talked about the High Priestess, the Hermit, and the, the Tower. There it is. And so this time we're going to be talking about the Empress, the Wheel of Fortune, and the Star. So the Empress... this is symbolized by Taurus and Venus. You can see the symbols right here and everything.
I've got that on the screen. So
Thank you.
That's everyone in the room.
Thank you. So this represents the receptive principle of creation, or let's see. So when we're talking about energy, we're talking about yin and yang. In the old ways, you would always hear it called masculine, feminine. We are moving past those very two-dimensional ideas of what opposite is. So like think yin and yang, think like active, receptive. So in the tarot, you see that split happen on purpose with the Empress and the Emperor. They split because that's representing the split of the soul, taking you from your wholeness into different aspects of yourself. And that's represented with the Empress, and then it's represented with the Emperor. And the whole point is to get to the point where those two elements come back into harmony with each other in the Lover's card, and then once they come together in the Lover's card, it fuels the Chariot, and then it moves on to the second part of integrating all of these lessons we learned when we had lived life as separate within ourselves. So like, I am feminine, you're masculine, I'm yin, you're yang, like when we went into those old paradigms of separation. But we're trying to come back together in the Lover's card and then move forward so that we can go into the Chariot. The next card is our Strength card. So like, strength is all about like our sense of will and our sense of identity and everything, and the things that get us through the hard times. And then we go into the Hermit. And I'm saying this because it's going to go nicely into the wheel of what we're talking about. Because the Hermit represents going into the silence, and it talks about going into a place of hearing your inner soul, which is what we've been doing up until this point. We're going to be going further from evolution into that point. But the Hermit goes inwards, really starts thinking. And with the Hermit, having the wheel come after the Hermit is very interesting because the Empress is that creative yin expression. This is the one that creates. This is the I would always say Demeter, but I've heard people call her Demeter, but also like Ceres and Sophia, the great divine opposite, creates this whole reality we live in, which is the wheel. Every time you see the wheel is representing structures of reality and structures of thought. So the Empress, in her divine wisdom, created this reality and what we are all kind of experiencing together. And then also how we experience that reality within ourselves, by ourselves. So the Empress creates, and so on a personal level, what have you been creating this time around? It's Tiffany now, right now. And so what have you harvested? So you've got this Empress who's here with like all these symbolisms of the harvest. What did you create with the powers of the Magician and the High Priestess leading up to the Empress? What have you done with that? And what have you created? What have you structured into this new reality? There's a lot of cool symbolism inside of the wheel, which I don't have time to right now to go into all of it. But the alchemical process of how to become a divine being is inside of the wheel. The symbols, like salt. Salt represents the divine within matter. That's why we use salt when we are casting circle, because we are infusing our physical space with divinity. And so salt represents the salt of the earth, divine within the earth. That's why salt's super important in metaphysical stuff. And then with the Wheel of Fortune, you also have, was that Mercury? Yes, so then you have Mercury, sulfur, water, and salt, which is so fascinating because Mercury is going to be representative of our intelligence and how we look at what we've created. What have you done? How have you created separateness in your own life? How are you bringing it back? And then sulfur, where was it? Sulfur represented the masculine and Mercury represents the feminine, or if we're remembering, that represents our dual opposites, like the parts of ourselves that we are bringing in together to go into our depths of our unconscious, because it has water symbolism in here, to bring it back to salt, meaning that we are coming back together as a whole, diving into the unconscious, coming back up to the top. And then after that, you have the star, which is where we are in Aquarius right now. So right now the card ruling the time of place we're at is in Aquarius. And the star is the water bearer. A lot of people, I've gotten in arguments about people who think Aquarius is a water sign, because it can't be, because Pisces is next, and Pisces is a water sign. Aquarius is air, but they are the water bearer. They're bearing the unconscious. They bring the unconscious to the forefront, and they do something with it, because water and emotion is important to bring up to the surface. But then with the air sign of the star, you need to give it a place to go. And so this some people say Persephone, like it's whatever feminine, divine, yin energy is then taking water from the collective unconscious, putting it back, bringing it back to earth, where it turns into our five senses and how we discover things. The star card is representative of healing after the Tower card. And then we have that progression of light we've talked about, where you had true darkness in the Devil with just that little bit of fire that was downwards, and then that flash of light in the Tower, and then we're now to the star card, and then as the year goes, then we're going to have the moon, and then the sun, which is that divine realizations and everything. So, to bring that together, with the Wheel of the Year, and with the Wheel Tarot card, what are you bringing into reality? What are your structured thoughts right now? What are you unconsciously doing? Because with this, we want to be bringing our unconscious thoughts and making them conscious. So what are you creating? Because the next card after the wheel is justice. So what are you going to be responsible for when that child of yours takes off and starts making their own decisions? When you've created a new life for yourself, but then you start having to have some karmic repercussions, or if it's good things too, like the karmic of you finally received the justice when you've been trying to do all this good stuff that you've been working on, all of that stuff. So I really like these ones together because it's asking us to look at what we create, how that's formed, and then how we use that in the world to bring hope, healing, and flow, because you want things to be in flow, like what you were talking about with the wheel. You want to be in flow with all of that. So that's my thing.
I love when you talk, Tara.
Thank you.
Well,
somebody needs to.
Somebody
needs to enjoy it.
Well, damn good at it. So.
Well, and it's true because for me, I'm not a tarot reader or anything like that. So I enjoy it. It's like, oh, there's some interesting insight. I read the book and get a little something, and you're like, no. Here's the story. This is the map that this is telling you, and. Having you go through something like this has actually given me so much more spiritual awareness, as much as like following the wheel, because this other system is just so. You bring it to life, is what I'm saying.
Thank you.
So.
I hyperfixate on it really hard. The problem I see is when we started using it to fortune tell. I feel like that's where the depth and all the richness that's in tarot got completely lost, is when we were just trying to be like, you can use it though, because if you understand the time periods, like we know this is Aquarius, and if you get this in a love reading, you could say, well, it seems like things would be good in this time period, so maybe in February and March you could, so it does work that way, but you lose so much of like the nuance and the richness and the depth when you just focus on, but I like a boy and I want to know.
It flattens right out. And sometimes the most frustrating readings when you have to gently tell somebody, hey, listen, I'm not going to run down your resume. I'm not telling you exactly what salary you're going to get in your next job. And that's not how this works.
That's your responsibility.
Exactly. This can manifest a whole bunch of different ways.
Yes.
I love that you bring it to more than just a magic 8-ball.
Yes. If you wanted a yes or no, get a magic 8-ball.
Yes.
Flip a coin. I have a friend who doesn't practice magic, but he loves the psychology behind the tarot.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while, when he was still attending university, he would just sit in the comments area with a little sign that said free tarot readings.
I love it.
And he would do that because people were like, oh, are you telling my future? And he would say, no, this is literally just pulling out random cards, and your brain is coming up with the solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And he could wax poetical about the importance of looking within, and the specific deck that he would use. He studied it very carefully because he wanted to know what the symbolism was and how it would connect to the mind. He was very, very good at being about finding, okay, so this is what the card is, this is the interpretation of the card. How do you interpret that based on what this meaning is? And he would get people that would be like, oh my God, you read me so well. And he's like, I did not. As a matter of fact, your brain just came up with it. And I think that that is a huge thing too. Like, it's not just a fortune teller. It's an inner working kind of thing. It's an insight. Shorthand, I feel like is the wrong word, but it's a connection to the inside to bring it to the forefront.
It's a framework.
Yes, that one.
The old alchemists, because back in the day, the people who, the eyes to see and the ears to hear thing, if they just saw the alchemist, they thought it was like, oh, chemistry gone wrong, like that kind of stuff. But they were the first psychologists. Like, if you take Mercury the planet and Mercury the metal, and you take it literally, that's where the problem happens. We see that in religion. We see that in the spiritual community of people taking a symbol literally. When it's supposed to be a symbol, you tell your unconscious. That same thing with ritual and everything. Like, rituals are set up to play with your subconscious, because your subconscious doesn't react the way your consciousness does. And so when you start thinking literal Mercury, then you lose all the symbolism that goes along with that. What does Mercury represent? What does the planet represent? Like when you do rituals where you become the sun and the planets, are you literally that, or are you taking on the metaphor and the symbolism? And then you start seeing things changing, because it's literally a change of consciousness. Like, you go into those and do those rituals and stuff to change your conscious the way you normally think. So if you imagine yourself as the sun, and then you imagine things in your life with those things, you've literally switched from thinking mundane, like here are my bills, here is this, to magical thinking, where it's like, oh, if I'm the sun in my life, what are my rays nurturing? The sun is, there's life on the planet because of the sun, so what's the life like in my own world that I'm creating right now? Like,
and that is how magic works. You change what's inside of you, and you change what's around you. Basically, I talk about the tarot like it's a Rorschach ink blot test, but
yes,
weird.
but it's very pretty.
Well, and I love that because that's getting into issues of identity, and that's where like your brain, if you have an identity as something that I am, my brain will make that happen. It'll look for the opportunities for that, or find the perspective for that.
And then that's where attachment comes from, because the other thing we're trying to remember is connection is beautiful, love is beautiful, remembering we are all connected is a wonderful thing, but it's our attachment to the thing that's what ruins everything. Like when you have to hold it and put it in there like this, that's attachment. But if you can just let it go and breathe, recognizing that everything is connected, so there's no reason to go like this when I can just be here with you, then you can release the attachment to how something has to be. Because that's what like Buddhist people like. They talk about that all the time. Like surrendering your attachment so that you can experience like higher states of consciousness, because it's your attachment to the thing that keeps you, not the connection to the thing.
Darth Vader did not have to happen, I think is what
It's
I'm
true,
trying to
yeah, it didn't. You're already one with the Force.
We're about halfway through our time.
Yeah, let's
talk to some people. What are you guys doing at this time of year? What does your attunement look like right now? Or anything else that you want to share?
And does anybody consent to wanting to be on camera as well? Because if you want to, we can turn the camera around. So
turn the camera around.
Turn it around. Oh no! Yeah, Sonora.
Oh yeah.
Did you have something you wanted to share?
Oh, I was consenting, but
Oh yeah,
I'm
got
still here.
you.
In the tradition that I follow, this is actually March is going to be the period of Lent leading up to Ostara, and Lent, the reverend that at the church that I go to, she was emphasizing like a lot of times people think of Lent as a time of restriction, as a time of self-denial, and she is very much of the opinion that it's not meant to be you're literally restricting yourself. It's meant to be a time of schooling yourself. And oftentimes, what she did last year that she told us about was instead of cutting something out of her life, she brought something into it. Said, okay, I don't remember what she said she did. She's like, okay, but every day I'm going to do something for this one thing for 15 minutes. I'm going to do that every day during Lent. And it was a time of preparation and a time of learning and schooling for herself coming into the Easter season. We have Shrove Tuesday, which is otherwise known as Mardi Gras, which is a time of feasting and a day of laughter and all kinds of party and excess before going into the meditative time of Lent. And studying it this way now, I find it interesting that there's this, okay, we're going to have a great party, we're going to celebrate, and then we're going to spend the next little bit leading up to the Easter season. This is our contemplative, this is our learning, it's essentially, Lent is a time to teach ourselves and to prepare ourselves for the coming year. And so coming into a time of, okay, we're taking from the start of the Wheel of the Year with Imbolc. This is, and the in-between time between Imbolc and Ostara, this is the preparing, you're coming into the season and you're preparing, you're laying the groundwork. You are taking something or letting something go to make room for whatever Ostara, whatever Easter is going to show you. It's really, really cool to watch how the liturgical calendar has an overlap with the Wheel of the Year and how they connect and they complement each other with what they're focusing on.
Yeah.
I have a question for you then with
Yeah.
that exact same topic. Like, Imbolc for us, of course, is like the Feast of Brigid, and then it's also Candlemas. Can you talk more about Candlemas? Because I know a little bit enough, but I want to hear it from you.
So I was actually down for the counter in Candlemas.
Same.
But Candlemas is is a feast day. Let me see if I can get it. Yes, it was his. Yeah, it was the presentation, which basically, when he was presented to the temple and the prophet and prophetess that were there, were
Debutante. Yes.
yeah, they were like, this child is going to be the savior. It was his announcement to the world of this is who he's going to be, which essentially was we had the wise men already come and do their private thing, but the presentation of the temple was more of a ritual thing, and so this was a more public thing of announcing to everybody, this is who he said, this is who he's going to be. And so Imbolc is that celebration, not Imbolc, Candlemas. They overlap, but Candlemas is that celebration of the presentation, that announcement of this is coming. Mm-hmm. Because you had the Christmas season to be like, oh, we know this is the personal time to understand, oh, this is what this means. But Candlemas is the showing it to the world. Mm-hmm. You come out of the purification time, the time of taking care of a small one. And we're like, no, this little one is going to be a great person someday. And so that overlap with Imbolc and the spark, the ignition of the anticipation of something coming plays into each other quite well.
Yeah, I really like that. I was just thinking that too, because like, if you take away, again, when we talk about literalness, if you take away the literalness of some of that, but just what it represents, Jesus, like some of those like divine people who came here to teach us that we are divine also. They didn't come here to say, worship me and submit to me. They came here to say, you can do these things too. Everything I do, you can do as well. And so it's just that same idea that I think is fascinating. Like if you put it to the wheel of the year, like if you are that divine spark that like lit the sky at Yule and everything, and then is now flowing through Imbolc and everything, what are you taking that into the rest of your life and the rest of your what are you creating, like what are you responsible for, like
what's interesting is that with Ostara and with Easter, that is it's celebrated as a triumph over death, but the rest of the liturgical year up until the Christmas season is about the stories of everyone else who came after and the work that they do throughout, because the spark lit, it grew, it glowed, but other people had to take it and press forward with it. And that's the story of the rest of the liturgical year is, okay, this light exists, but it's not enough for it to exist. Other people have to hold it, nurture it, move along with it, and do what it takes to make room for it by bringing something in or clearing something out.
I love this so much. So in most traditions, this whole thing about light always happens, and in most traditions there's also this idea that we were one thing and then we split. And so this idea of reforming ourselves into pure light, but remembering we are each of the striations, all the different colors within light. And so you see that in all of the stories about how, like the one that we always heard about, how the divine saw themselves and pulled themselves through for the mirror. And then you saw, there's usually the ones about how God shattered, or like the egg, the sacred egg or whatever that one was, where we're all just the one thing that are all everything now. And so it's this idea, whenever you hear like any mystic talking about trying to become light, it's because you're trying to take all these reds and greens and blues and trying to bring it back together to be one pure thing. And I think that's badass.
It's fun looking at a prism and being able to go, so this is all the things that make up this is all broken up, but in reality it's just, we're just showing the division of the one thing.
Yes.
which
And-
was so much fun.
Because then you have the mirror aspect of yourself, and then you have the shadow aspect of yourself. What is opposite, but what's shadow? What are you repressing? So who are you when you're with your people? Who are you when you're alone? And what do you not want people to know, you know? So when we talk about, like, doing shadow as a way to integrate, you know, again, because we were talking about how salt is, you know, the divine, and you're like, if you're integrating these pieces of yourself back together again, when you bring up shadow words, think about, like, what pulls you, because the persona is that part of you that you're desperately trying to get people to believe that you are, you know? And when somebody doesn't see that, what happens? Your shadow comes up, like, oh, but I'm a very nice person. But if somebody's like, oh, that person's a B word, you know, I don't think so. You're like, ugh, how dare they not believe my persona that I was trying desperately to craft and create? And oh my gosh, now everybody hates me, you know? But, like, that is where the shadow is, and it's okay to not be likable all the time, you know? So if somebody calls you, like, a narcissist, you can be like, like, what is my reaction to that, and why did I respond that way? Is it because there's a people-pleasing aspect of you who does try to manipulate? Usually people-pleasing is manipulation in a nice way, but it's still trying to make somebody to believe a version of yourself that you want them, a perfectly designed thing that you want them to believe about yourself. But when somebody doesn't believe it, we get so upset because you're trying to repress all the stuff you don't like about yourself so deep down. But that's where the work has to happen, is the shadow side repression. So
The thing that
like
is
the different colors in your
thing
body.
that- the thing that is not me gets cast to one
Mhm.
side.
Yeah.
And so by saying this is me and this is not me and throwing not me,
Mhm.
it's a separation that hurts you more than helps you, because if you integrate, they have to work together. They have they communicate with each other. They inform each other.
Yeah.
And the concept of what is you and what is not you, and needing to separate that, I think I've seen it in quite a few other traditions as well, as the idea of you're trying to become one with the self.
Mhm.
You're trying to unify the lower and the higher because they talk to each other.
Mhm.
That sort of thing.
We see that in the Chariot card, and we see that in the High Priestess. To make the Chariot move, you have to have the shadow and light together working in tandem. That's why it's so important in the Lover's card to bring those two aspects of yourself, masculine, feminine, yin and yang, active, you know, receptive. Like, you have to have all of those things within you. I think even Jesus said something about, like, bringing together the two to create a one. And so when you go out of alignment within the Devil card, that's when you're allowing others to make your decision for you. That's when you are identifying too hard into only this about myself, nothing else. I have to repress everything else that I don't like.
Every
But-
time I pull the devil card, I start talking about, hey, what part of you have you repressed, and why are you trying to distract yourself from it? Because
Yeah.
that's the essence
Yes.
of it to me. When you reject those parts of yourself, you're still rejecting you.
Mhm.
And it's not going to go anywhere. That's still part of you.
Yes.
Yes, as you've said many times before, we don't need to slay our demons. We gotta lay our demons.
Especially if our demons look like Tom Welling from Smallville season 8. I like that demon. Anyway,
That's a good demon.
that's my demon. No, I'm just kidding. We can share
I
demons.
admire you, demon. I have many of those.
With the Devil card too, it's also like, who are you allowing to make your decisions for you, because you don't want to take your own power and make up your decisions yourself. So it's like, yes, I could do this by myself for myself, but it's easier if that person just does it for me, so I'm just going to give my power away to them, you know. And that's why the Tower card sucks so bad, because that is the falling away of these things you made other people do for you, and now you're responsible for bringing them back together, for integrating them, and for trying to become whole again when you have spent a lifetime of letting other people make your decisions for you.
And you gotta get in touch with your inner flame, because that flame will do things. It will move. It will gutter and sputter and flicker when it is in the presence of something that's not resonating, and it will shine, and it will be brighter, and it will fucking roar inside of you the minute you do the things that are resonant.
Hello. Hello. I think that's a cool idea with the Devil card with the fire that the Devil's holding downwards. Because light is up, so it can shine, and then if it's upside down, it's just going to eat at itself and eventually go out. But in the image, it's an active torch that's downwards, so it's not illuminating anything. It's casting shadow, because if a light is down here, you're not actually seeing anything for truly what it is.
Why are you hiding that shit under a bushel?
Don't hide it under a bushel. I didn't want the bushel to catch on fire.
That's a nice bushel.
I like that
They
bushel.
wove it last year.
Don't let the bushel catch on fire.
So, the thing about, like...
Do you want to be on camera, Monica?
Not really.
Okay, you don't have to.
nope.
Yeah, okay, you don't have to be on camera. I'll be on camera for you.
Oh, thank you. The person speaking is not Bridget. So it reminds me of a thing that I've learned, like, in my relationships in the last several years, in, like, watching myself and, like, other people, and just kind of watching, like, when you split off a part of yourself and say, not me, this is not me, how often we see that split off part in another person and then fall in love with it. And then, like, project onto that person, and then make them, like you were saying, make them responsible for certain things. Like, I totally see this in, I better not say that on camera, people I know, people close to me in my family, and just how their relationships work, and also in myself. Like, I was married for 10 years, and now I'm not married, and, like, it's great to sort of reflect on and be like, okay, like, that was happening because I was making that person responsible for maybe the masculine side of me that I had repressed, that I hadn't learned to identify with and work with. So
I was just talking about that with my brother. So my son likes Pokemon, so he has all these different stuffies, and we have to do the voice for all of them. So of course you create a personality based off of your own personality. So like my favorite stuffy of his is the Score Bunny one. Not because I liked Score Bunny from Pokemon, but because of how I made Score Bunny's personality when we're playing. And then I had this moment of like, I love Score Bunny. I mean, I guess I like the way I play him. And then I'm like, does that mean that's an aspect of myself I actually like? Does that mean this is something I'm into? Well, what do I do with Score Bunny that I like about myself? And that's so that's an easy one because I like that, and so I can see it and I go, oh, that is funny. But what do? I usually make Score Bunny very jealous of the other stuffies. I'm like, oh my god, am I a jealous person because I'm making him jealous of all these other stuffies, you know? And that's a very basic way to see it. But then if the Mike Score Bunny, and now I'm sitting there projecting onto you about all these things, but then I see within you things that I like about myself, but I might not be getting the whole picture because I'm falling in love with my face on your. It's really egotistical though, quite honestly. I'm like, oh, there's my face, I love me, and then you're just using. But when we call each other a mirror self, you're just seeing the things that you like and hate about yourself. So if anybody tries to be like, oh, this is just a mirror, you're just seeing yourself though within that mirror. You're seeing what you like and hate.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to differentiate between the shadow and the mirror self, because it's not the same thing. Because the mirror self is what you are. If you see a mirror aspect of yourself you don't like, it's the repression and how you treat yourself within the shadow that's upsetting. Because if you see your mirror self but you're at peace with your shadow, you can go, oh, this person's jealous and greedy. I'm like that too, so maybe I can get past that. Now I can get to know this person as an individual, rather than, oh, I hate this person, now I'm not going to judge them, and I'm going to talk about them behind other people's backs because I don't like it, which is also a shadow thing to do.
I can share the example I love of that, which is imagine you're in a movie theater and there's some crap on the projection lens and it's projecting a big spot up on this big screen, and you're up on the screen scrubbing it. You're like, why won't this? You know, you're not looking at the actual source of the problem. If a moth landed on the lens back here and you're trying to get it off of the big screen, it's not going to work. And
because it's an illusion.
I also love that example because the moth is this big and it lands on the lens, and by the time it's projected out on your life, it's enormous. And
that's really distorted versions of yourself.
Yeah.
Moat being something about eyes.
Oh yeah, that's the
like
thing.
that.
That was a Jesus thing you were looking for.
Mm-hmm. Well, remove the beam out of your eye before the moat.
My beam.
I forget it, but
my eyes hurt. But I love that. I think that's super cool because then when you think about illusion, I'm sorry, I'm talking too much. But the illusion aspect of it, because the screen isn't the movie. The screen that you're watching isn't the movie. It's not even real. Like it's just this. It's technically like a lie because the movie is behind you on the film, but you don't understand the film if you don't understand how movies are made. You just understand this big projection thing that you're identifying with so much.
No, that's exactly that's exactly that. Or the other one I like to use, which Duncan Trussell said once, is like if you stepped in dog crap and everywhere you go smells like crap, you can delude yourself into thinking that, man, this room smells like crap, and you go in the other, man, this one does too, man, all you guys are full of crap. And if you take a minute and go, oh no, there's crap on my show, and it was this much. But everywhere I went, I thought
It just
that
got
I
worse
smelled.
and worse and worse.
And now you've tracked it in everywhere. You've got to go clean up the mess.
Well, that's what happens when other people have to interact with your shit now, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and now other people's dealing with it, then they think it's theirs all of a sudden, when really it was just a teeny little smear on somebody, but now all of a sudden I have trauma thinking that smear's mine, you know? That's why you gotta know yourself. Jesus also said that too, know yourself.
Well, that's another great thing. In fact, I want to say to Sonora and everyone who shared a little bit of it, that these things aren't practice specific or tradition specific or anything like that. It's not, well, I thought of it first and this church ripped it off from this church.
These ideas
blah,
are
blah, blah.
classic.
It's just different lenses and expressions of just the way of things.
Yeah.
The way these things work. You can observe the wheel in a pagan context or tarot context or in any other religion that's cyclical.
In a
and that has-
psychological context where it has nothing to do with spirituality, because that
Yes.
can also hurt people too, you know? It's
Yeah,
like, I don't want to
I mean, Shakespeare knew in, what is it, Julius Caesar, he said, there is a tide in the affairs of men which, when taken at its flood, leads to victory. And, you know, talking about when to strike. It's all in martial arts. Take a drink. I'm talking about martial arts again.
Mike's talking about martial arts.
That you don't come at somebody with all your force and power against all their force and power. You wait until they're extended, and then you use your force and pull them across.
To and fro, stop and go. That's what makes the world go. Thank you, Brittany.
That's the fun thing, though, is that so many people have come up with so many clever ways to say these things over time that resonate with different people in different ways at different times in their lives. We can learn so many aspects of the same concept simply by experiencing it ourselves and by reading what other people have said about it and being like, oh, that makes sense now. That's fun.
Revisit in different ways. Or honestly, when I revisit the wheel, that's generally what I do, and I study other things too.
Yeah.
But when I revisit the wheel, I've done Lunasa a bunch of times, but I got something different last year, and something different the year before that, and something different from it as I like rereading an old book, and you're like, oh, I get this reference now. I get. Real quick, one thing I wanted to share as far as attunement, and then I'm pretty much done, was just a couple of practical things. Anybody ever use mudras in your life? Mudras are like hand signals that would mean something that you do when you're in a certain state, and you link that state to your mundane state. And
The
then
bird counts.
and so, like right now, I'm attuning with Oak King, as I said. That's a powerful mantra.
That's what I was saying.
I'm
You
not
always
gonna do it, but-
You do it when you're mad at people on the road. That's a state of mind, and then you reinforce it with the hand mudra flipping somebody off.
That's actually really true.
The solfege for all the choir kids.
Oh, yeah.
Solfege.
Yeah,
Hand symbols.
solfege.
I don't
Quiet
remember
hand.
them anymore. Don't remember them anymore, but it was always okay. These exactly.
Yeah. It's good stuff. So one I've got going right now, I'll share with you, is the Oak King, and this is the interlocking of the oak branches, and these are the horns of the horned Lord, the Oak King, and I'll press that into my chest when I'm meditating and I'm trying to really get into Oak King. Or if I'm in a state that I want to link to that mudra, I'll be just doing whatever I'm doing, and I find myself in that state, and I'll just whip out that mudra. And then I have other ones, which like this one is like spiritual awareness. This is for relaxation of the body, so I'll often meditate like this. And so linking a hand gesture or something. I also did taste correspondences. I haven't done it for a while, but I used to have. I really hate Altoids. Not hate, but I don't gravitate
don't
toward
like
them.
Altoids.
So I would put an Altoid in my mouth before I was trying to do a working or a particular meditation or something like that, and had a taste correspondence that I never encounter in my mundane life because I don't just sit around and eat Altoids.
That's funny.
So I was able to link that to a certain state of mind, and if I wanted to invoke that state of mind, that was one way in which I could do it, along with mudras, along with chanting, whatever I was
It's
listening
also
to.
incense. That's why we do a lot of certain smells of incense for certain time periods, because that's supposed to evoke a memory of how you felt at those points.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
And then the other one I would say to try is if you've ever done any aura patching, because as you're invoking energy at this time of year, well, do you have any holes where it's leaking out? Do you have anything in your energy? So casting circle tends to do it because you move the energy around and it just all smooths around. But if you're not casting circle, get into state as best you can, and then like reach out and really get your awareness of where your energetic boundary is, and then start feeling it. Get in tune with it, and if you can feel any cold spots, anything that's like rushing out or anything like that, gather like Tai Chi style, kind of gathering the the Ouija ball, and patch that spot. You'll actually literally feel it. And then patch it and then spin it, and it kind of smooths it out like if there was a divot in the sand and you kept smoothing over it again and again and again.
It's like pottery, throwing clay.
Yeah.
And then just having a mind toward, yes, you're invoking energy, yes, you're building energy, you're linking it to the waxing sun or the growing sun, but you're also not letting it all fall down the drain. The solution isn't always more energy. Sometimes it can be energy retention. Not so much that it's stagnant, you're not saving it, and it moves through you, but you're letting it, just like Ace of Cups, you're letting it fill you and then overflow.
It's a where in the river.
Yes, it is. Yes. Okay.
Another thing with that my grandma did with me a long time ago, when you're trying to feel your own aura, to feel where it is, with somebody that you trust and stuff, you can sit and you can get meditative and you get understanding of where your aura is, and then you have someone just kind of like walk towards you, trying as quietly so they don't hear it first, but like the practice is to try to see when you can feel when they get into your arc space, because if they make noise, sometimes you go, oh, I can tell you're coming from that direction. But like just very quietly just start walking towards you when you're meditating, and then you just stay right there, and then you can kind of see like from a distance of how close they got to you versus when you could feel your aura touching them and stuff when they entered your field. And I thought that was fun.
Earplugs might help.
Yes, you can do earplugs. You can like plug your ears, you can put in like some sort of headphones or something, and then just wait, and then you can like let them know that you felt it and stuff. So
I love energetic practices.
Yeah, it's fun.
Great. Questions?
Yes.
Anyone else want to share anything else, or how you're tuning to the season, or
Comments,
questions?
complaints.
Especially
I have a
complaints.
complaint. Good.
So many complaints.
Good.
Mostly about myself.
I think I'm still working on intentionality. I talked about that last time I was here, and thinking what specifically, and so I'm using the Wheel of the Year, and I connected with what you said earlier, is like, okay, now I'm evaluating my decisions. I'm making choices. I said, okay, I've applied for these many things, but these things said yes. But if I do all of that, I'm not going to have time to like be at home. I'm not going to have time to like relax. So, what choices do I make at this time? What am I going to do next month, next couple of months? What is my summer going to look like? And really just thinking about things and saying, what do I want my year to look like? What do I want to be doing in the spring and the summer and the fall? And then making choices on that, so that I'm really bad about overcommitting. So I'm not overcommitting. I'm not, saying, okay, I have to sacrifice everything else in my life to get this one thing done for work or for this. And so I'm still trying to practice that intentionality. And for Imbolc, I said, okay, how is my year going to look? What do I want to put out there? What do I want to do? What do I want to get rid of? And really just evaluating kind of like my year and what I want to do, and say, these are the steps I want to do to do the things I want to do, to be the person I want. And really just making those choices. And so that's what I've been working on. And like this year, it's deciding, what am I growing? I like that solution. What am I growing, and so what will that year look like by the choices I'm making now?
That's excellent. Have you ever encountered or looked into karma yoga techniques? That might be a good one. That's using your life experiences as a vehicle to awaken, and the methodology of it really comes into like year planning and that sort of thing. Because what you do, it's really just 3 steps. It's quieting down to the point where you can hear what you might call the Tao or the way of things or the law, or just what your path is.
Like you do when you have coffee on the floor.
And then you use that knowledge to make those decisions intuitively. It's not necessarily the pros and cons list, and my head doesn't like this at all.
There needs to be a pros and cons.
But if you quiet down and you're in flow and you're like attuned with the Wheel of the Year, like we're talking about, and you're quieting down enough to hear your personal path, then intuitively you know what to do. And it's okay to have goals and to want to do these things, but the third part of karma yoga is just not being attached to those goals.
Attachment.
Again, it comes back to attachment. So you quiet down enough to hear your Tao, and then act according to it with no attachment to the outcome. And if it comes across the way you thought it was, also, how interesting. And if not, also. That is just as interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know.
That's when your desire versus will. What is your desire and what is your will? And how I heard it phrased was, desire are the things that you want, but will is the one that you act on. So you can say all day long that I want to be doing this and I want all these followers on Instagram. I want all these. But your desire is what you choose to do. And so if you're trying to get your desires in alignment with your will, then, because if we're just reacting off of our base desires, that's what creates us like the carbon-based life forms, like I need to eat, so I eat, I need to go to the bathroom, so I go to the bathroom. And that what makes us created beings is that we can see what we want, use all of these techniques to build what we want, and then align our will with what we desire. Because if you say, I want this, but you keep going and watching Netflix every day for 5 hours, then your will is to watch Netflix and don't fool yourself, because then at least you can be honest with yourself and say, a desire is to make $100,000 a year and I want to be doing A, B, and C. But if you keep doing this, then really what your desire is to not do those things. And so what can you do that's more balanced? Because that's the other thing. Like, what can you do this year for the ultimate goal of doing this bigger thing, and making sure that when you find yourself doing the thing you kept saying you shouldn't do because of the goals, then just be like, oh, well, apparently this is my true will. How can I refocus and how can I align my will with my desires? So it's kind of like the two circles, like on those compass thingies. We got to make it actually line up. That kind of stuff.
It's cool stuff.
It's cool. Anybody else have anything to say? I'm gonna go see Backstreet Boys in August for my birthday.
Yes!
Woo! I'm excited about that. That's
Excellent.
gonna be fun.
Excellent.
Backstreet Boys.
Are they coming here, or are you going to?
I'm gonna go to Vegas with my friend Kristen. We're gonna go have a little road trip.
Vegas trip, man. You gotta party hard.
Go to Vegas, see Backstreet
It's
Boys.
a big 3-0 for me. So.
Yay! 30s. Cool.
Questions? Anything else? Clarifications? Comments? Book reviews?
Oh my god.
Crushes celebrity same-sex crushes.
Can we braid each other's hair and talk about boys?
Tom
And
Jerry.
And no working idea.
That's so funny. I mean, I only braid my hair, talk about boys one time.
All right. I think we are
All
set.
done.
So grateful for everyone who came in person, everyone who tuned into the live stream. I love you all.
Thank you. Oh, and thank you to Ave Melody
Oh my
for
God.
producing all of this, for having the cool images, and for having a microphone and a cool camera and
You're
everything.
live switching today.
Yeah.
That was
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
So
Rob.
rocks.
So go to Ave Melody Media.
There's a QR code. Hey,
Yay,
there you go.
there it is. She did
Thanks,
it.
guys.
You're good.
Appreciate y'all.
Thank
Like,
you.
comment, smash that subscribe button.
Smash.
You're really good.